Welcome back to another episode of Those Two Dudes. It's that dude Josh.
That's that dude Ruben.
Man, today we have a very, very special guest. Oh man, we've been excited about this one for a little bit. I know we've been teasing it on previous episodes. Me and Josh are honored to have the great Jason Zone Fisher on the episode. Jason, how are you, man?
I'm great. Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. We really appreciate it. I know, it's definitely asking for a little bit. You have a very busy schedule. You know, you're on a ton of podcasts. You're hosting one currently with the NBA great Baron Davis.
Yeah, we do a live podcast every week, every Monday called Who Got Game. It's about fantasy basketball, but really just talk NBA and everything around the NBA culture and have different surprise guests come on week in and week out. It's a lot of fun working with someone like Baron Davis. He's a genuine, authentic, hilarious guy. What you see is what you get with him. He's the man. How
did you get here? You know, what were all the steps? You know, where did you start and what led you to where you are now?
As you sort of alluded to, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up a huge sports fan there, and I grew up from a very young age loving performing. I knew that I wanted to do something kind of being on stage or on camera, or just like, you know, when the bright lights come on, I can turn it on. And I recognized that in myself when I was just a little kid, putting on shows for my friends and family and people in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And I started acting professionally when I was in the 4th grade. I was in a play and I loved doing that. And then I got an agent and I started auditioning for commercials and TV shows and movies, and I was in some television movies, and I just got the bug. I love doing it, and I thought I was going to be an actor because I just love the performance aspects of it all. But when I was in high school in Cleveland, always alongside my acting, what I was most passionate about was sports. And while I was in high school, the Cleveland Browns came back because a few years earlier they had left and became the Baltimore Ravens. There was no team in Cleveland for 5 years. So when the team came back, they wanted to attract a younger audience who didn't grow up with professional football in the city of Cleveland. So they started a Saturday morning kids show on the local NBC affiliate in Cleveland. And they had an open casting call for Browns Blitz, and I auditioned and got picked as one of the main hosts of the show. And for me, it was my introduction into hosting and broadcasting and sports journalism, and that whole world were really like, oh, this is even better than acting. I get to be myself, or just an exaggerated, turned on version of myself, and I'm on the field for all the games, and I'm hanging with the players, and I have this incredible access. I've always thought that I figured out, I guess, that a camera and a microphone are really my keys to unlock doors to amazing places, experiences, and people along the way. And that's when I decided, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and went to school for it, and kind of just, the whole journey, work begets work. Doing one thing has led to the next, and hustling and networking and putting it all together. But I do, to bring it back to the beginning, have always felt very lucky that since I was a little kid, I knew at least kind of the path that I wanted to walk and to pursue.
You know, it's determination, hard work, and goals and dreams. You put all that together, and look, what you're doing is technically work, but is it really work? Because it's just a lot of fun. You know?
Yeah, it's funny. I work really hard in between all of the work. So I'm always hustling because I've basically been freelance for all of my career. In any different year, I've had anywhere from 20 to 40 or 50 different jobs. Some are gigs and one-time things, but a lot of them have been able to get my foot in the door and turn them into recurring opportunities with brands, with networks, with digital outlets, places like that. And the hard work is the hustle in between of just creating ideas, coming up with them, pitching them, connecting the dots, and following up and following through to try to get to the stage where I'm just executing, because that is the most fun for me. And it's like, I get paid to do this. I can't believe this. I feel so lucky. I've had so many experiences in my career where I would probably pay them to let me do these things, and I'm getting paid to do it. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. That it never feels like work for me. It is my passion and it is fun.
You know, you can talk about something for as long as you want, but unless you're doing something about it, all it will ever be is a conversation. Yeah. Kudos to you, man.
And likewise to you guys too for starting the podcast. That's great. So many people, you know, think about the things they want to do and want to start, but at some point you just gotta rip the Band-Aid and give it a try and go for it. So kudos to you guys for making it happen.
You did a show for the BIG10 Network. How was that? I'm a huge college sports fan, so I wanted to know how that was.
It was amazing. Yeah, this is another one of those dream jobs, and I'm very lucky. I've had a lot of them. So I hosted for a few years a show called Tailgate 48 on the BIG10 Network, where I was basically your tour guide along with my female co-host, showing you if you had 48 hours on a college campus the weekend of their biggest football game of the year, ultimate way to experience those 48 hours. Everywhere you want to eat, everyone you want to meet, every tailgate you got to stop at, and then on the field for the game as well. So it was amazing. And it was also, you know, like young, I'm not that far removed from college, and I've got a camera crew following me around on these college campuses as we go eat incredible food. We interview players and coaches from other teams. We have amazing access literally on the field for the game for like Ohio State, Michigan, or Wisconsin versus Minnesota, or Nebraska, or all these schools in the Big Ten. Penn State with such legendary programs and history, and just to do a deep dive on all that with an all-access pass. Again, it was like, I get paid to do this. This is amazing. It was a blast. My favorite stadium in the Big Ten, I mean, I'm partial to Columbus, to Ohio State, because I grew up an Ohio State fan, and I would often talk about it on the show. And because on the Big Ten Network, in these college towns, including Columbus, where Ohio State is, people are watching the Big Ten Network all the time. I would get stopped and recognized all the time, and especially in the stadium during the game, people would like treat me like a god because they knew that I was an Ohio State fan. So that was like a cool experience that I was getting recognized by people. I remember Greg Oden was on the sidelines of a game, the former NBA player, and he went to Ohio State, and he came up to me. I went up to him. I was like, oh my God, Greg Oden. He was like, no, you're Jason from Tailgate 48. Go Buckeyes. Man. You're the man. I was like, what? It was like, that blew my mind. And so that was my favorite. But I will say the most fun game day experience is the University of Wisconsin in Madison. It is so much fun there. They have incredible traditions that they do throughout the game, like after the team scores, where they, you know, pass people up. They like crowd surf through the stadium, and they lift people up and down, and but jump around. That the whole stadium, they play that in between the third and the fourth quarter, and they play the House of Pain song, and the whole stadium in unison jumps up and down, and the energy of that is just infectious. It's incredible. I love that. And Nebraska probably had the best tailgates of all of the schools. The tailgate scene there, like people literally show up in their trailers and their RVs with their grills 3 or 4 days before the game to like camp out and start like smoking their meats and get ready for the tailgate. It's intense there. Almost everyone in the Big Ten, for the most part, is pretty welcoming, except for the University of Michigan, who also, those fans knew that I was an Ohio State fan, and I had the entire student section. I showed them my Ohio State shirt from the sidelines. They all started chanting "asshole, asshole," and throwing stuff at me, and security had to remove me and send me to the other side of the stadium because they thought I was for my safety. So they were not accommodating, but everyone's super nice. Maybe the University of Iowa comes to mind, that like everyone is like, feels like a big family there. The tailgates, you know, it's like, oh, my mom was a cheerleader and she was married to the offensive lineman, and now her kids are there, and then there's grandma and grandpa, and it's just like everything felt like one big family at that school.
You were talking about the Wisconsin and the House of Pain song. Josh, if you haven't seen that, YouTube that there's YouTube videos of that. It's incredible. Just like Jason said, everyone's jumping up and down in unison. And it's, you know, it's just, you can't imagine that. I guess you have to see it to believe it, because watching it on YouTube almost doesn't look real. There was one year where you wanted to go to as many NCAA championships as possible. How many did you go to, and what was one of your favorites?
So again, this is another crazy, like I can't believe this was my job experiences. Pizza Hut became the official pizza of the NCAA, and to commemorate that in their first year, they named me the Pizza Hut All-American, and they sent me to every single NCAA championship in every sport in 1 year. I went to 33 of them. No one ever at the NCAA or a brand had done that before. I went to the men's and women's Final Four. I went to the college football championship game. I went to the College World Series and Women's College World Series, but also bowling, lacrosse, field hockey, water polo, track and field, swimming and diving, fencing, you name it. I went to all of these different sports, and it was a blast. It was really cool. I mean, being a big basketball fan, obviously the tournament, the Final Four, there's nothing like that. So getting a front row seat to be there for that was amazing, and also really cool. It was the first time in my life I had a hotel room in 2 cities at the exact same time, because Pizza Hut was literally flying me from the Final Four. I left from the fourth quarter to go straight to the airport and fly to the women's Final Four, and then fly back to the men's championship. I was going back and forth. That was nuts. But one of my favorite championships that's kind of like a little maybe under the radar is the beach volleyball championship.
Oh.
It's amazing. It's in Gulf Shores, Alabama. They call that the Redneck Riviera. It's beautiful down there. It's really nice, and it's a really cool format. I mean, everyone, the fans, you're on the beach at the ocean. Everyone's wearing sandals. They're barefoot in a bathing suit and beach chairs watching the best of the best in beach volleyball compete. And it would be a format of, let me see how to describe this. So it's a best of 5 different matches all taking place at the exact same time. So let's say it's UCLA versus USC. The UCLA versus USC 1 seed are on a court playing 2-on-2, and they're playing best out of 5, while on another court it's the 2 seeds, and another court the 3 seeds, another court the 4 seeds, another court the 5 seeds. And out of all of those best of 5 matches, whoever wins, it's a best of 5 collectively, whoever wins. So it's really cool because it's all happening at the exact same time. The scoreboard's everywhere where you can see it, so you can run from like, oh, this is a great match at like court 4, and then USC won, and then UCLA won here, and it comes down to just timing wise, like the 5 seeds, it's tied 2-2, and whoever wins this match is going to win it, and everyone rushes to that court, and it's just got a really cool energy and feel, and I've never been in a sporting event like that. And then the winning team, they celebrate by running into the ocean and celebrating in the ocean. It's a pretty cool celebration.
That sounds awesome. Do they host that at the same place every year, or do they move that around?
I'm pretty sure it's in Gulf Shores, Alabama every year. I know that there was a history of it. It's a recent NCAA sport and tournament. It was less than 10 years old, so it's pretty recent, but I'm pretty sure they always do it there.
You know, you're from Cleveland. You're a diehard Cleveland sports fan. I'm sorry to hear that.
I should be sorry to hear that. It's harder on me.
Cleveland sports, it's pretty sad. It's been sad, eliminate, the few LeBron James years that he's had success here, the title that you guys had a few years ago. What was kind of one of the most depressing, for you personally? What was the more depressing Cleveland sports moment, whether it was the Browns leaving in 95, LeBron leaving either the first or second time, the shot, the drive?
Oh, wow. So many to choose from. It's hard. Yeah. There's a lot. A lot of depressing Cleveland sports moments. I mean, the first three, that's so sad. But the first 3 that come to mind are when the Cleveland Browns left as a franchise. I was 10 years old. I was at the last game ever at Municipal Stadium. And I remember, like, people were pissed, but they were sad. They were emotional. Fans were ripping up the bleachers, taking seats home with them. They were like taking the stadium with them, and people were in tears, crying. And I'm a 10-year-old kid, and like I kind of got it, but I didn't fully understand it. So I wasn't like super depressed because I didn't fully know what this meant, the gravity of it. But seeing that, it's like I have flashbacks to, it's like out of like a horror film, just watching at a football game, people in tears, bawling. I saw a guy carrying a urinal out. He was taking home a Cleveland Browns stadium, like a Municipal Stadium urinal. Like, what the hell? Taking turnstiles, all this stuff. That was pretty depressing scene. It was like a mass funeral for the most beloved team in Cleveland. That was rough. 1997, Game 7 of the World Series.
It's the Marlins.
Jose Mesa, our closer, he blew it, and we lost the game in extra innings. I remember I was home. I was still young. I was 13 years old, and I was up super late at night because this game was going on forever. It starts late. It was probably like 1:30 or 2 in the morning, something like that. I was praying, hoping that we would win and we'd see a championship. I was so invested in those 90s Indians teams from 95 and then obviously 96, 97. Like, we had to win one, and that was our chance. We had the game, and that I took pretty hard because I was a little bit older and understood it. But by far the worst, just the punch in the gut, was LeBron James, the decision. Because one, I love basketball the most. I love the Cavs, and LeBron was like, it was just perfect. He was our savior. He was our hero. And he was like the hometown kid, the chosen one. The chosen one didn't just mean him. It meant like for us, for the region, to lift us up, because we had never won anything in all of those years. And he was our hope, our best chance. And we were close. We were so close. And it's like, he's going to go do this somewhere else now. That was pretty devastating. And when he left the second time, I don't think anyone in Cleveland was upset by it, because we won the championship in 2016. He fulfilled his promise. It happened. He led us there. And it's like, I can't blame him. I live in Los Angeles now. He was following me, figured it out. Started in Cleveland, moved to LA. I get it.
We're here in Texas, and I grew up an Oilers fan, and they left Houston to Tennessee when I was 10 years old as well. Which sucks, man, because I was like, that was my second year of really following football. And then they just take off to Tennessee, and I'm like, now what? Fortunately for you guys, though, at least y'all got the Cleveland Browns back. We never got the Oilers back, so I'm actually on the Titans bandwagon. I know that. I don't know if that's. I guess a lot of people in Houston probably don't like that, but I stuck with them just because a lot of my favorite players were on the team at that time, and they stayed on the Titans. So that's that.
Since LeBron left, things haven't been so peachy. The upside is they just got the third pick in the NBA draft. And this is a deep draft. It's a strong draft. What are solutions for the Cavs? They have a couple good young players in Colin Sexton. What is it an easy fix, or is it a couple season fix and maybe an ownership type deal?
The Cavs are in a tough position. I am a huge Cavs fan, as we've talked about and you mentioned. And they're my favorite team. I still follow them, but it's crazy how fate goes in the NBA draft lottery. They're very lucky that they got the number 3 pick in this upcoming draft, because this is a deep draft, but it feels like there's definitely a clear top 3 or 4 players. Yeah. So I'm glad they're in that group, because just a couple years ago, the Cavs had a chance of getting Zion Williamson or John Morant, but instead you get Darius Garland, and that's not a knock on Darius Garland. He showed a lot of promise in his second year this year. He's a good player, but he's not a franchise player like a Zion or a John Morant. He can be just that close from where you pick in a draft. So it's tough, because I really like Colin Sexton. I really like Darius Garland, but are these guys that you build your entire franchise around? Probably not. I mean, it's maybe too early to tell, but it doesn't look like it. I like Jared Allen and the trade they made during the season to get him. He's a young guy with a lot of talent. So there are some pieces in place, those 3 being the I think core to build around. But yeah, they got to make some moves, and whether they use that number 3 pick or they try to package it with something else, maybe Kevin Love as well, who still clearly can play. He's playing on Team USA this summer. I don't know. I wish I had the solutions for what the Cavs should do. But it's always a tough place to recruit free agents to come play for the Cavs. So the way to build it is really through the draft. That's how they have to do it. They have to make trades, acquire picks, get more picks, more assets, and build through the draft to try to find some gems. And hopefully our scouts have what it takes and know what it takes and select the right guys, because when they've had a lot of great draft picks, but kind of some no-brainers like LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. And then, they also took Anthony Bennett first overall. So that didn't work out so well. So, it's going to come down to draft picks to rebuild this team.
Sounds like we have a lot in common, man, with with our beloved Spurs in Cleveland. Josh and I have talked about this multiple times. The fix is having to build within and drafting right, because we just can't attract any free agents. No one's going to want to play in San Antonio unless we're winning. Kind of the same for Cleveland. You have Kevin Love, and that was going to be one of my next questions. Is he going to be in a new spot next season?
I mean, I think that would be the best thing for everyone involved. For Kevin at towards the end of his career, to play for another contending team for the Cavs, so we can focus on young talent. They just, they rewarded him with a pretty lucrative contract, and he's got a couple of years left. So they need to find the right fit for him, someone who can take on his salary, and hopefully he can help get them over the edge to a title or a title contention. So I don't know where that fit is. He always mentions that, he's from Portland, and I think he would love to go home and play up there in the Pacific Northwest. But there's so many questions in the NBA right now. What's going to happen with Portland? What's going to happen with CJ McCollum? What's going to happen with Philly and Ben Simmons? Dallas, their whole front office is sort of, being shaken up right now. Now we know the draft order. That's going to change things. The next few months, the NBA could change a lot.
The draft is, I think, next month. A lot is going to happen. I'm under the impression that, if the Clippers don't win this Sun series, that Kawhi Leonard is out of the Clippers. So we'll see how that shakes up. We'll see where how all this shakes up. We started on the bottom, so let's kind of trend our way back up now, and let's talk about the Browns. Some of the highest expectations that they've had in recent memory. They won their wild card game against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, no less, which I loved, by the way. Is this their best year that they're going to have? Is this their best shot to do anything?
I think it is, and that's what scares me, that all Browns fans, we were so hopeful. I was texting with a friend about an hour ago. He was saying, we're going to the Super Bowl this year. It looks so good. I mean, our team looks great. We've got so many skilled players, both offensively and defensively. We just added Jadeveon Clowney in the offseason to play next to Myles Garrett. You got Baker, quarterback, who played great in that Steelers game and a lot of the regular season. Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, we got a lot of superstars on this team. And then our two running backs, too, which is incredible. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Yeah. So it's scary how good we could be, but it's also scary because, as you already led with, the depressing Cleveland sports moments that too much hope in the city of Cleveland can be a dangerous thing, because our expectations, set in, and we can just be let down. So I'm trying to go into this just excited that the Browns will have a lot of nationally televised games, that every Browns game will matter. People will be talking about them again, and just taking it a week at a time. I'm not predicting the Super Bowl for us because that is my brain can't even compute that yet.
I see them winning the division this year. I'm not going to go so far as saying the Super Bowl, but at least this would be y'all's first division title since '89. I think I read, if y'all would win the division. So that'd be something in the right direction.
That would be incredible. We're in such a tough division between the Ravens, who are always up there and always good, and Lamar Jackson, and the Steelers. I mean, Big Ben, I don't know how old he is, 43, 44, whatever, but he's still doing it, and he's still there, and they're always a threat. And then the Bengals, they'll be back one day, but just between those two teams, the Steelers and the Ravens, they've just dominated this division for so long that it would be incredible if the Browns come out on top. I would take that for sure.
I think at the very least, kind of what Josh said, I think that the Browns take the division. But there are a lot of things in favor of the Browns this year in trending in the right direction. And I think one of the biggest ones is Kevin Stefanski coming back for his second year, and there finally being continuity with the offense. Baker Mayfield has not had continuity up until this year. So that's huge. And how the offense is ran with Stefanski, it's not asking a lot out of Baker, which is what makes Baker good, right? When you just don't want him to pass the ball that much, which is why they've been good. And they have that two-headed running back monster in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Obviously, you have a ton of offensive weapons. You talked about OBJ being one of them. Is he going to be on the Browns at the end of the season?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm totally, personally, just as a fan, would be cool if they wanted to move him. I think he's a great player, still has a lot of value, but it's not like they really missed him that much last season. Jarvis Landry is my favorite Brown on this roster. He's my favorite receiver. I love him, and we just got to keep everyone happy on this team because there's a lot of personalities and a lot of egos. And obviously Jarvis and Odell are boys from college. Baker's got a good relationship with them. So, I just want the team and the players the chemistry-wise to stay happy. So if they're happier with Odell in the locker room, great. Let's rock with him because he's got the skills and the talent. If not, then let's move him for maybe another defensive piece or something else that we need. But, I don't know. I do trust the Browns regime for once to know what they're doing. It's been a long time to be able to say that. But the coach, the GM, everyone in place, it's like I feel confident that they at least are making the right moves now.
Obviously, we're talking about Baker now. He's essentially going to be on a contract year this year. Is he the answer for the Browns?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see any reason to say no. And like you mentioned, the Browns have not had any continuity at the head coach, front office, or especially at the quarterback position. So if he gives you some stability and reliability and you know what you have and can build around that, I think let's roll with that. Let's stick with that. Like, there were rumors even, should the Browns trade Baker for Aaron Rodgers? No, I don't think so. I think that's putting all your eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket for like 1 year, maybe 2. And just, again, the chemistry. I don't know that the team would be fired up about that either. I feel like you got Baker and you roll with Baker for right now. He hasn't done anything to have me doubt that yet. He won us our first playoff game since the early 90s.
Yeah, he's trending up. Like you said, there's no reason to really think otherwise. You want it'd be great if your quarterback threw for 4,500 yards in today's NFL, but he might get there. And he's efficient. They have a great offense around him. As long as he does what he has to do, doesn't turn the ball over, I think they can win a Super Bowl with him. So I would keep him.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Kevin Stefanski fit that so well, is that he's not asking a lot out of Baker. It's a ton of running, then a ton of play action, a ton of moving out of the pocket because he's a shorter quarterback. All these fit in the wheelhouse of what Baker is good at. So just keep that. And don't change it.
And he's got that swag. We need a leader out there too, that intangible to all the guys buy in, believe in him. We get the guys not to quit, to keep them rallied. He has that, and everyone seems to respond to him. All of his teammates do. So that's an important factor too.
What's going on in the NBA world? Obviously, there was a hell of a NBA matchup last night, Suns and Clippers. What are some of the biggest surprises, good or bad, that you've seen so far?
Well, I think this season and this postseason is another example of it almost feels like a battle of who is the healthiest and who can survive right now. You've seen so many teams just decimated by injuries. Kawhi Leonard is out for the Clippers right now, probably out for the series. Anthony Davis for the Lakers. Obviously Chris Paul is coming back, but the COVID protocol stuff with the Suns. Jamal Murray was out for the Nuggets. Joel Embiid tore his meniscus and missed some games, but played through it, but still battling injury. Every team has key injuries. I know Mike Conley for the Jazz was out for a while, and Donovan Mitchell a little bit, and obviously the Nets losing Harden and then Kyrie Irving and getting Harden back. So it really, that is the biggest storyline for me of this postseason. It's a battle of who can survive this gauntlet with only 71 days off between the bubble and this season. And you look at the final 4 teams who are still standing. none of those teams were in the Final Four, went deep into the postseason last year in the bubble. All 4 of those teams, they're all out. So there's something to that, you know, the Atlanta Hawks, the Phoenix Suns, teams that are here much sooner than expected are performing. The Clippers, who disappointed the entire league last year by getting bounced early, have made it further this year than they ever have in franchise history. And the Bucks, another team that just disappointed everyone over the last couple of years, having the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, all these pieces, and they've been bounced early. They're in it. So it's really interesting how that's all played out. I think health has been a huge factor, and the emergence of this like next wave of NBA talent. Looking at what Luka Doncic did in the first round, but now Trae Young and DeAndre Ayton dominating, leading their teams to conference championship series. So it's pretty cool to see like the new guard of the NBA starting to take over this year, and it really feels like this is a golden opportunity to win an NBA championship this year. And I know that you talked about one of the disappointments, the 1 seed, Philadelphia 76ers. Got to feel this was the best shot, that trust the process that this team had to win a championship was this year, and they really squandered that opportunity. And now it feels like a golden opportunity path for the Milwaukee Bucks. If the Clippers were healthy, I would put them in that same conversation, but they're obviously banged up without Kawhi Leonard. So I think it's the Milwaukee Bucks to lose of these 4 remaining teams. That's kind of my take on it. But the Phoenix Suns look really good. They play both ends of the floor. I like them a lot. And it's just a shame that Kawhi isn't on the Clippers right now, because I would love to see Clippers Suns at full strength, because I would probably pick a full strength version of whoever survives that series to win it all.
The best ability is the availability, and teams are really showing who has that. But on that same note, that's what to me, that's what makes it most disappointing with teams like the 76ers and the Jazz. They had the availability, and they were the 1 seeds, and then they both lost their series. So that to me was most frustrating. So with Philly, are they blowing? Should they just blow it up, or at the very least get rid of Simmons?
Yeah, I think they need to move on from Ben Simmons. I think probably everyone sees that and knows that too. There's a lot of teams out there in the NBA that have been good teams for a long time, but clearly are just not good enough. The Portland Trail Blazers come to mind as another that, like, they're always a playoff team. They're always have fight in them and have a chance of winning. But I just don't think they're going to get over the hump with how they're constructed either. So there's teams kind of stuck in the middle there that they're going to have to do something different. And maybe, I don't know if it's with one another, they make some swap. You keep hearing like CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons. I don't know if that helps, either squad who wins that battle. I do think Philly should move on from Ben Simmons. It's just a matter of when, because his value is obviously at its lowest right now.
And I'm hearing a lot of people talk about disappointment with the Nets and them having the big 3 and then being eliminated. I feel like it was just a case of the injury bug, right? They lost because no Kyrie Irving, and James Harden was essentially just a shell of himself. He was a decoy, and it was just all on Kevin Durant. So I don't necessarily blame the Nets. Should they do anything drastic, or should they just keep it as is?
I mean, I think you got to run it back and just, add different key players. Guys like Jeff Green really stepped it up for them this season.
Joe Harris.
Joe Harris, he disappeared in the last game, but he was really good in most of the season and throughout a lot of the postseason. And they also lost Spencer Dinwiddie this year. He's still a net, and he's now a free agent now that their season is done. But he's someone who's a great player and clearly would have helped them a lot. So, yeah, I think, with the core, as long as they can keep them intact and run it back, they'll probably be the favorites next season to win it all. It's just about adding the right pieces, because you see in the postseason, it's these guys like Cameron Payne on the Suns, or Rondo, Terrence Mann, obviously a young guy, but like different other pieces on each team are the guys who can be the difference makers. So it's not often while the big three or big two or whoever, they get you there, it's the role players who get you over the hump. And it's about picking and finding the right ones. And that's what the Nets need to focus on.
To Jason's point about role players, it's all about putting players around your stars that fit with those stars. And that's one of the reasons I think I know you said you like the Bucks right now, Jason. I like the Suns. I mean, adding Chris Paul, a true point guard, a leader to go alongside Booker. Then they got all these other pieces. Specifically, they got so many wings and Crowder and Bridges, Cam Johnson. They got long wings. And then they also got the young big man in Ayton. I just really love that roster all around. So yeah. I think they're the favorites right now to win it over. I would say the Bucks going, but over the Bucks in the finals.
I mean, before this, the conference finals started, I would have said Bucks and Clippers. But after, I don't know, it's just so hard. The Clippers have come back from down 0-2
every series
times already. Yeah. So they clearly can do it, but I just think it's going to be too tough against this Phoenix team for the reason we talked about. And the way they lost that game too is just like so demoralizing, because to be leading with 0.9 of a second left and lose it on that last play, Paul George missing the free throws, the fact that the refs had to review again another play that really didn't even need a review and gave the Suns a free timeout to draw up the perfect play. It's just like, that was one of it reminded me of a Cleveland sports loss last night. I had the same feeling in my gut, for Clippers fans, just being like, this is familiar. I've been here before. It's hard to overcome that. So my prediction, the long-winded answer, is Suns versus Bucks, and I think the Bucks will win that series.
Like I said, I got the Suns and the Bucks, and I'm taking the Suns to beat the Bucks in the finals.
Okay.
Because I think they have the more complete roster.
I didn't think the Hawks would beat the Knicks. I didn't think the Hawks would beat the Sixers. I don't think the Hawks will beat the Bucks. But we'll see. I mean, they have a deep team. They've got a great coach, and they've got a fearless young leader in Trae Young. So anything can happen, and the Bucks have disappointed their fan base and fans around the NBA for far too long. But I do think the Bucks will win this in 5, probably 6 games.
If you don't mind humoring me, Jason, I got some NBA trivia that I'd love to throw you guys' way.
Love it.
Between you and Josh, it's just a whole bunch of grab bag between some NBA draft questions, 2000s, and just basically some random stuff. So, Jason, we'll start with you. Got to give the guests an easier one. Who was the first unanimous MVP in the NBA?
I believe that was Steph Curry a couple years ago.
Correct. You may know this one, Josh. I'm helping you out here. Who is the only NBA coach to win an NBA championship and an NCAA championship?
Larry Brown.
Larry Brown is correct. So, there you go. Let's talk a little draft now. Who was the first high school player, for Jason, who was the first high school player drafted in the NBA?
I believe that was Moses Malone.
Moses Malone is correct.
Which, hold on, I happen to have Moses Malone's high school jersey. Right?
Oh, wow, there you go.
Right from high school to the NBA. What are the odds? I didn't know this trivia question was coming.
I love that. Awesome. I love that. Josh, almost same topic. Who was the last high school player drafted straight to the NBA?
LeBron James?
No.
Yeah, man. Who was the last one before they changed the rule?
It had to be right after that, like soon after that.
No.
Not really.
No.
It was like 5 years after.
Yeah. I don't know, though. That is a good question. You stumped me. When you say it, I will remember, but I don't know who the last one was.
So I looked this up, and I don't know that any of us would know this, but it was Amir Johnson. Who was the Vancouver Grizzlies' first ever draft pick?
In the expansion draft or like their NBA draft?
The rookie? NBA draft in 95.
Big Country, Bryant Reeves.
That is correct. All right, Josh. The Lakers traded for the draft rights of Kobe Bryant. Who did they give away for Kobe?
I know this one, Josh.
I'm starting to think that you don't want it. There you go.
Yeah.
In the decade of 2000, what team produced two different six-man award winners?
I know the answer to that question in the following decade, 2010 through 2020. That would be the LA Clippers, because they had both Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford win the six-man award from the same team in the next decade. But the decade previously, I don't know. That's tough. Can you give me a clue? Is there a
I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue of one of the winners.
All right.
One of the winners was Antoine Jameson.
Is it the Wizards?
It's the Dallas Mavericks.
Wow.
Well, that was my follow-up question. Bonus points if you can tell me who the other six-man award winner is.
Jason Terry?
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
That's what I was going to go with, but it was his question.
What 2000s decade? Who averaged the most points in the NBA?
Kobe Bryant?
Kobe Bryant's correct. What team in the 2000s decade had the least amount of wins?
I'm blanking on this.
It's the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, okay. All right.
In 97, the WNBA, the Houston Comets won the first ever title. Who did they play?
New York Liberty.
There it is. We're just talking general. Who is the highest scoring foreign-born player of all time?
Dirk Nowitzki.
Correct. What player did the Los Angeles Lakers draft twice? This was like in the 50s. But it's not a random player.
George Mikan?
Yes. That's my guess too.
Incorrect. It was Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor was drafted in the 14th round. When he was drafted in the 14th round, he decided to stay in school. Obviously, that's not an option anymore. He decided to stay in school. They won the national championship that following year. He came back in the draft, and he was drafted number one overall by the Lakers the following year.
Interesting.
Wow. Jason, this one's for you. This is the last question here. What WNBA team has won 2 of the last 3 titles?
Minnesota Lynx? Are they still winning 2 out of 3?
That's incorrect.
Oh, man.
Josh, you know?
Phoenix Mercury?
Incorrect.
Seattle Storm.
Seattle. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. We'll call it a tie. Appreciate you humoring us with that. Jason, I appreciate you being on, man. Loved having you on. We have to have you back on again soon. When the Browns win the Super Bowl next year, let's all go to the Super Bowl parade party. And
That's scary. Don't
yeah.
scare me with that. I hope that happens, but just put it out there. It haunts me.
Well, if it happens, man, we're with you on one of the floats, and we'll do an episode live. So we look forward to that. But Jason, man, tell us where can we all find you? What's next for you?
Yeah, thanks again for having me on. I'm always doing a lot of really fun things. Like I mentioned, I host this show with Baron Davis every Monday called Who Got Game. You can check that out live. It's the best place to see it is probably youtube.com/slick, SLIC. And then every week I also host a show for the Dallas Mavericks called Mavs Vault, about the world of collectibles, cards, NFTs, autographs, sneakers, jerseys, all that stuff. That's on Twitch, on the Dallas Mavericks official Twitch channel. And the best way to follow me and all the other things that I got going on is just to follow me on Instagram or Twitter at JZFish, JZFISH, and I'll keep you posted on all the crazy adventures I'm getting back into, especially now that the world is opening up again.
We look forward to it. Give Jason a follow. Check everything out he's doing. He will be doing. Listen to those podcasts. Dude's so fun to listen to. Thank you for being on. It was our pleasure. We'd love to have you again soon. Appreciate it. In the meantime, the sports world will be staying up to date with everything that's going on in the playoffs. Let us know what y'all want to hear. Don't forget, like and subscribe, follow, thumbs up, do everything in between. Tell your aunt and uncles. Follow us YouTube and Spotify. It's that dude, Josh.
That's that dude, Ruben.
Click the like button right now and subscribe. Punch it. Let's go.